Ambassador, who is going to hold China to account for some of this behaviour? Because as the reporting suggests over the weekend, yes, you are correct. The US has evidence that China is considering lethal aid in this war in Russia. We know China has been aiding and abetting Russia in other ways, in rhetoric at least publicly, but military aid would be another significant step. What will the United States do? How will President Biden respond, and what is the appropriate response here?
Well, obviously, it cannot just be a United States response. It needs to be coordinated with all the other countries that are helping Ukraine, that are allied against the hostilities, the invasion, the atrocities committed by the Russians. And so it needs a worldwide response if we are to have any effective pressure against China, should they begin to even contemplate or certainly provide any lethal assistance to Russia. We cannot do it alone. It needs to be a coordinated response, the same way that we're having a coordinated response among so many countries around the world in helping Ukraine.
Do you believe that we are on an accelerated track now for a US-China decoupling, not just because of the balloon incident, but also amid these latest reports about China's support for Russia in its war in Ukraine?
Well, let's keep in mind that many parts of our economy are already decoupling. We're trying to be less reliant on even protective gear, as we saw during the COVID pandemic, that we cannot rely on China or any one country around the world for many of our protective gear, our essential supplies, as well as technology or clothing and manufactured goods. The same way that China is beginning to realize that they cannot be subject to the whims of American politics and have their access to high technology goods, whether it's semiconductors or sophisticated machinery, suspended due to American politics. So China is trying to be more self-reliant. They're trying to diversify their supply chain, just as American companies are also doing that in terms of for political reasons, but also in terms of possibility of a future pandemic that might close down factories. And so it's wise for all countries to have a variety of different sources for critical goods and services. But at the same time, I think that you're seeing that we need to put pressure on China, along with the other allies, put pressure on China to make sure they do not provide assistance to Russia.